participation implies authorization for Mass Bay to use such likeness and voice on this recording in perpetuity. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Hi, everybody. John Petruzelli. I'm the director of the Mass Cyber Center. We built a card game that is an incident response card game. And what I do with some of these sessions is essentially like train the trainer. So thank you for those of you who volunteered to come in here and for those of you who may have been drafted to come in. But this is about an hour. I'll try to make it fun for you all. Okay, so why don't we just create a circle of chairs? You want to just grab a chair. So this is interactive, so people can participate. Who else from the group over here is participating? All right. I'm gonna make you the leader. What do you do in your daily life? Networking team? Okay, I'm gonna make you legal risk and compliance. How about yourself? Also networking? Okay. Communications and media. Hello, I think we met before.
I'm Courtney, I'm the provost.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna make you IT.
Awesome.
Right. Thank you, Robin. I'm gonna make you finance. You're in charge of everything.
All right.
All right. Tony, you're HR.
Oh.
You're gonna play. All right. Chauncey, you gonna play?
Sure.
All right. I'll make you HR.
Okay.
You can finally make the cuts or the changes you want to in HR, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Security and law enforcement. I can take on that role. Actually, I'll just give someone else like the role. I'll make you security as well. So you can fire them and remove them all at the same time. And then I need someone to take on the role of operations as well. Anybody willing to do that? So.
Nate looks like you.
All right.
Dave even knows.
Let's have, let's see, who did I have you guys be?
I am legal communications.
I'll have you be operations as well. All right, so what we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna put this up, if people will be able to see that on the screen over there. This is my first time using this, so sorry if you get no screens. I'm just gonna read it off to you because I don't know if it'll be probably hard for people to read on there. But what we're gonna do is this is a 15-minute or a 1-hour game. We're doing the 1-hour version today because we've got injects. But what we do is it's a role-playing game. We have a fictitious organization. Try to put up the org chart. Maybe you can see that. But essentially, just so you can see that there is an org chart, we are an organization. Let's see, do this right. Okay, I think I did it upside down. There we go. Okay, we're an organization in Massachusetts, so we don't have to be a school. We don't have to be a business, but essentially we have the leader, and then in different arms. We have human resources to the left, finance, communication, media, operations, information technology, legal risk and compliance, and then security and law enforcement. And they basically, that executive management team has all the different capabilities under them to manage the organization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you through a scenario, and there's injects. So I'm going to be handing the injects out to an individual. So for example, the first inject is, the role is just the organization. So this is for everybody, okay? So I will read it out, but what I'll do is we'll give you these injects, and then the person who's responsible for this, like the next one's going to be going to operations. Operations will then read out the inject. Okay. So what we're trying to also simulate is the fact that there sometimes is miscommunication. So you're not seeing a scenario card up top. You're not necessarily sure what's happening. You have to rely on the communications from the person on your team to be able to pass along this message. Okay. So at the organizational level, I'm going to just give this to the leader. You mind just reading that out to the group, please?
Employees begin reporting that the voice over internet protocol consistently offline.
Okay, so that's it. The VoIP system is offline, right? So this organization uses voice over internet protocol phones, okay? And right now they're saying that that system is offline. So what do you do with that information? Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that it generally makes sense. Like, how often do your phone systems, non-attribution, I know this is being recorded, but like, how often do the Mass Bay phone systems go down? Pretty infrequently?
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes, like, depending on what's happening, it should be infrequently, so that's good for Mass Bay,
Yeah.
right? In a small business, sometimes it happens frequently if they're using an older server and the server is routing the internet traffic for the VoIP system through that. Sometimes that fails. Sometimes they're using a virtual machine and it'll crap out, at some point over the weekend, and then they come in and there's no phones. So not necessarily indicative of a cyber attack, just could be an operational thing. So passing it over to IT, okay, that would makes sense. Okay, so operations.
Employees from several different organization locations are calling operations to say their HVAC is not working in their location. Operations is unable to log into the building automation system portal to check temperatures and adjust settings. What do you do with this information?
Could be. Any other thoughts on that? Anybody know how your organization runs here with HVAC and stuff?
Probably facilities.
Yeah, the operations team,
Yeah.
facilities is part of that.
And I imagine IT also.
Yeah,
Probably they are too.
because do you guys have a building automation system?
We have HVAC system, so I'd say between facilities and the networking team.
Okay.
Of who controls it.
So again, maybe not indicative, like it's hot in this room, right? Not
Yeah.
indicative of a cyber attack, just maybe sensors and stuff not,
Yeah.
accommodating for, the fact that there's a lot of computers in this room, right? So the system might say, we're gonna have this room be 72 degrees for human comfort in the wintertime, but then they don't realize there's a lot of computers in here, it makes it hotter. So, okay, so that's it for that. IT,
The IT team discovers a recent email containing a suspicious URL that was clicked on by an organization employee. Read the whole thing. Okay. This caused several small binary files to be downloaded onto the employee's computer. These files created an encrypted connection from the computer to a remote system. That connection remained active until the computer was quarantined and removed from the network. The file signature of a file found on the computer matches a newly reported keylogger and ransomware variant. What do you do with this information?
any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, you'd notify the security team, I mean, if they're not, or, it sounds like they're already aware. Potentially if any data left the network, I'd want to get like legal or compliance involved to scope what was, removed. And to deal with the, potential ransomware payment, all that kind of, processing, dealing with the attacking group.
Any other thoughts? What might be happening, going on?
Worried about data that we transmit.
The leader receives a call on their cell phone from a local news reporter asking for a comment on just published cybersecurity blog that mentions a ransomware for hire requesting targeting the organization.
All right, so now the leader's getting a call from a local reporter asking about their opinion on a ransomware blog where the ransomware group says, hey, we're targeting this organization, our organization.
Yeah, that would go communications / media team to draft up an official response.
Yeah, so talk amongst yourselves, like what does that look like? You know, do you respond to it? Do you not respond to it? Like what are some of the things that you would do? Like,
It was a voicemail or an actual call?
a phone call from a reporter to the leader
Okay.
of the organization saying, hey, we heard about this. What's your take?
Deny everything.
It's already been published on a security blog about the details of the ransomware, right? So just kind of pretending it didn't happen would
Yeah.
not be very useful. So it's better to, get some kind of response to the story.
Talk about the steps that are being taken to address.
Yeah, like there's an ongoing investigation, et cetera. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Finance.
Oh, that's right. All right, so suddenly the finance team computers stopped responding. Shortly thereafter, the computers all display this message. Oh my God, this is so small.
Oh,
My
you know what?
glasses.
Let me just put it up on the screen so you don't have to see what it looks like. So it says, we have copied all your sensitive employee and customer records and are prepared to post this information on the internet for all to see unless you pay us 500,000 in Bitcoin for this Friday. That is 2 days from now. I could go with the Russian or Ukrainian voice if that was, or somewhere in South America, Africa, wherever. But if you don't believe me, or if you don't believe we have any data, you can contact us and ask for proof. When you pay us, the data will be removed from our disks, and we will provide the decryption key. No decryption key is publicly available. You have no other choice if you want your data restored and recovered. You can trust our word. Contact us here.
Don't contact them there.
But that's not the only inject that you got, right?
It says, what do you do with this information?
Yeah. The voice over internet protocol server is displaying a ransomware notice on its login screen similar to the one observed in finance. The local on-site backup server is displaying a ransomware notice on its login screen similar to the one observed in finance. What do you do with this information?
Okay, all out.
So what do y'all think? IT, what would you do with this information, do you think?
I would want to know what data was already lost, and I'd want to know what data we had available on backup.
How about other groups here?
I mean, get in contact with law enforcement, right? See if we have a secondary backup site that's not, on that server, it's on like tape or something that's not affected by a network connection. And then, once again, legal to work with law enforcement.
Cool. Finance, what do you think's going on right now?
I would hopefully similar answer to Courtney, make sure we have, all the data backed up.
Inform our bank.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
Yep.
freeze our accounts.
Yeah. All right, HR. That's you, Chelsea, right?
HR, yeah. I never thought I would be HR. But The HR director just received an email from a strange email address that claims to be from the ransomware attacker. We have copied all your sensitive employee and customer records and are prepared to post this information on the internet for all to see unless you pay us $500,000 in Bitcoin by this Friday, that is 2 days from now. Tomorrow, the price will go up. Time is money. If you don't believe we have any data, you can contact us and ask for proof. When you pay us, the data will be removed from our disk and we will provide decryption key. Contact us here. What do you do with this information? Contact
Thoughts
us
amongst the
here,
group?
and here is the link.
Any
I'd
thoughts?
say we don't deal with terrorists.
Have you ever had to deal with the idea of having to pay a ransom before? Or anything?
I think we were. Say
At some point, yeah,
20,
sometime.
Just before the pandemic. I can picture where I was. And we didn't pay, and that's not all I know.
All right, good. Yeah. So what are some issues that happens with ransoms nowadays? Are you, what are some of the legal considerations you'd have to look at when it comes to paying a ransom from a ransomware actor? Any thoughts on that?
Well, there's no guarantee that they're gonna release the information either once you pay, right?
Right.
So
That's-
it's kind
I
of
mean-
like, what's the point?
That's a big thing. That's a big component, right? Is it actually gonna work?
Right.
Are they true to their word? And I used to work in the military as an intelligence officer. We did a lot of work with the Colombian government. And the Colombian FARC, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, they used to kidnap Americans and other like Europeans, and they would hold them for ransom. And when you paid the ransom, you get the American back, like you get the prisoner back. That's not the same with data. It's totally different now. And there were ransomware groups, I think it was Black Hat. They were just when they were taken down, the data that they said was supposed to be gone was still there. So they still had it, even though people had paid the ransom. So that's one really significant just question for the group to discuss is like, do we actually pay the ransom? Is it going to resolve our problem, right? What about the legality of paying a group that might be stemmed from, Russia, China, Iran? What about the legality of that? Anyone know what you'd have to maybe check to see whether you could pay them? I don't know if this is not something you normally would think about, right? So if you have cyber insurance, the cyber insurance company will often check against the OFAC list. The Office of Foreign Asset Control is run, I think, by either Treasury or State. I think it's Treasury. But a lot of the ransomware groups, and I was joking about like Ukraine and Russia, a lot of them are Ukrainian and Russian-based ransomware groups that are on the OFAC list. So you can't actually pay the ransom or you violate federal law. So there's those whole other issues too. And I was actually talking to someone who had been ransomware a few weeks ago, and they said, yeah, our cyber insurance company is checking to see whether they're on the OFAC list or not for Medusa Locker. And I hadn't heard the answer to that yet, but yeah, Medusa Locker was a ransomware group that is out there. And so this person's team was trying to see if they could even pay the ransom legally. So,
So
How
do
you
we
deal
have,
with the-
sorry.
How do you deal with the, let's say as a personal use, let's say like I got some ransomware and I just say, hey, I have backup all my data, so I don't care. How you do as a regular user?
Yeah,
Is
so
the
just
best
as
way
like,
to just do
like
have
in a
backups
residential,
offsite or something? Is that
like in a residential capacity?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what I do with my home computer is I have a backup that's offline. So every once in a while, back up my computer, I pull the system image and I back it up to an external hard drive. And that's how I do my data backup. You could use Veeam, you can use Veeam that's free, but that you have to pay for cloud backups for that, or you could back it up to another drive on your computer. But again, if it's on your computer and you get ransomed, like, does that help you at all? So,
I'm a scary cat. I don't even back up on cloud.
yeah, I mean, because you never know. And
The cloud can be a
yeah, so yeah, good question. It's really risky. Now,
backup is the answer.
the other side of this too is that if they have your data, can they bribe you personally? Right? I've seen that. So I had someone who was higher up in an MSP that I was working with, and they were personally extorted by a group that was that said we had pictures of your family member, your spouse, in like compromising positions, and we will release those photos on the internet if you don't pay us a certain amount of money. And so that, I mean, it was their personal computer, like, they didn't expect that would be ever ransomed, but it was ransomware, and they had these photos. So what do you do in that case? It's like I pushed him over to the FBI. So I did talk to them, but scary stuff. So.
The managed services provider supporting your team called and said that it will take about 10 to 14 days to restore all systems from existing backups. Upon request, the MSP will review the estimated cost for the MSP to surge over time to restore all backups within 5 days is $250,000.
That's everything on the card, right?
It is. Oh, yeah. What do you do?
Do we have a cybersecurity insurance company? People keep mentioning that. Can we call our insurance company, see if that's covered?
It's a good question. A lot of times we'll run this game, like we pass it on, and this can be run in a company so they can go through like what would they do
Okay.
if they really had this. They can simulate their own company. So a lot of places do, some municipalities do, but some places don't have cyber insurance. So you never know. We didn't say whether this entity has it or not because it's like 50-50. Some places do, some places don't.
What is typically covered by cybersecurity insurance?
That's
'Cause I never really, I don't know.
That's a great and difficult question because there's the cyber insurance policies all differ, and there's a lot of like every year when someone, finance or maybe the provost office or someone signs the paperwork for like the work that has to happen like with the third party vendor, like let's say it's Chubb or someone, they sign the paperwork saying that they've done all these things with IT, like they have EDR, that the endpoint detection and response, like a higher level antivirus, or they have multi-factor authentication everywhere.
Employees have completed their security awareness
Employees
training.
completed their security awareness training, and so you have the school signing off on that, or the entity signing off on that. And if through this incident, the cyber insurance company determines that that was factually inaccurate because only 70% of people took their cyber insurance, and the victim who clicked on the link did not, they may not pay out.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, in the cyber insurance policies, there's a ton of riders because for 3 or 4 years, the cyber insurance companies took a bath on losses. So now there's a lot of riders and there's a lot of subcategories of what they'll cover. So you have to be really careful to read the fine print on those cyber insurance policies. And it's
After
not
all,
like-
they are insurance companies,
They're
right?
insurance companies. So
Even if they pay, next year they add to
your premium, right,
premium.
right. So, yeah, it's a.
And probably it's a deductible too, I imagine. Is
There
there a
can be.
deductible?
Yeah, there can be too, yeah. Okay, communications, you're right.
multiple customers are posting on social media that they received an email from hackers stating that their data has been stolen due to the organization's lax security practices, and they should sue the organization. In an escalated demand, the attackers had said that they would not, or they would consider not making the customer data public if the customer pays $5 million in Bitcoin.
Alright, so how does that, what do you all do with this information now?
Call the lawyer.
Yeah, like, now there's legality,
Right.
right? If you're talking about lawsuits, clearly data might be outside of your network. So there's that whole risk element as well. The media might still be calling the leader, right, about the ransomware information. Maybe they're following up now that customers are reporting this. So what are some thoughts on what the team would do here?
I missed one point. Is it just data from customers stolen, or they have been able to access customers' network through them? Was that
So this is
also?
an organization that holds customer data.
And the
and so
data
the
was,
data was
okay,
stolen.
so
The
at
customer's
least,
data.
oh,
Mhm.
so at least they don't have access to the customers.
Yeah, this is not like a remote monitoring and management tool or. they can
Yeah.
go into the computer,
Okay.
right.
Well,
So
okay.
so it could be financial information of
Yeah,
customers who are.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But if they had access, they could be a lot worse.
At what time is that you need to start firing people? I mean, I imagine like, I don't know, probably IT needs to start looking, who was the one who
Right.
started this?
After the event is all said and done and it's, sorted out.
Yeah, I would say you
Trying
don't
to
wanna
let
fire
go of
them.
people during the event just
Yeah.
causes more chaos.
Yeah, you don't
You
wanna
have to
fire the
wait a
first
little bit.
responders. It's,
Yeah.
although it's logical to ask that question, you don't wanna fire the first responders, right?
Put out the fire first. before you
Yeah.
send the firemen.
Yeah, it's like we were talking, so we talked, we did an exercise a while ago, and it was here actually, the Mass Bay exercise we did, remember the tabletop
Yeah,
we did in
yeah,
June of
yeah,
last year?
yeah.
And a couple of people in the room basically said, oh, if this happened, we would just, we'd pull the plug on the firewall, just shut off access to the internet. So, well, I was saying in that case, like your first responders might need access to the firewall to come in and troubleshoot. If you're using a managed services provider or like a cloud service, EDR, endpoint detection and response tool, like you're blocking their access to be able to help too, even though you might be getting the hacker out of there. So, so good idea as far as potentially firing those people, but not during the incident.
Not yet.
Yeah, the timing might be like day 2 after the incident's resolved. It could be like 60 days, 90 days down the road.
You do a full root cause analysis and determine.
Yeah.
Maybe one department was doing everything right, but another department was kind of paying lip service to a policy or something, not actually doing it, and therefore they were the reason the breach happened.
Yeah. I had someone working for me one time, and he was swapping out a firewall, and he copied over the settings from the old firewall to the new firewall, except that there was a rule that was in place, and there was a certain IP address, internet protocol address that was allowed, but he put 0000, which means that all internet traffic was allowed, right? So in the manner of a week, this server for this company, which was a private company, was now being utilized as a hub, or not a hub, but just another bot for the Mirai botnet. So all of a sudden, like their data could be compromised. Like luckily, they were not subject to ransomware or anything. That the attackers only wanted to use it as another bot in the botnet. So we were lucky there. But that employee, we had to go through the entire thing. We had to make that customer whole. And that employee, although I expected that the company would fire him, started looking for a job like day 2 of that incident and ended up finding a job like about a month later and left. So he didn't have the opportunity to get fired, but most likely my company would have fired him. So, because it cost the company like thousands of dollars. So, okay, security and law enforcement. I think I had that right over here, Robin, right?
Yep. You receive a call from a law enforcement partner, one, asking if you need help, and two, providing a friendly reminder about state data breach notifications. What do you do with this information? It seems like we have. to let-
Like the one we just got,
You did.
yeah? The state's, payroll system was compromised.
Oh,
That's
you mean
right.
like the one that, so interestingly, yes, I don't know if it was, was it actually compromised or were they able to stop it? 'Cause it's,
That's what the email
Oh.
said.
I've got, oh, it did. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because I had heard there was an issue last week. Secretary Howe actually mentioned it during our forum, and I was like, oh, they don't broadcast that stuff like internally that much, but but yeah, I mean, big deal. You know, now you've got law enforcement, you know, they might be a friend or a friend of a friend that knows you and basically like, hey, just so you know, like there's these data breach laws. You have 72 hours to report this, or it could be like a legal issue for you as well. Once you identify that it's a data breach, like there's a security incident, and most people don't want to say the B word because when you have a breach, that then formalizes a bunch of other processes that need to come into play. And, some places have like I think Massachusetts is 72 hours once you identify you have a breach for notification purposes, but other places are like 24. So that clock, that timeline is really significant. And if you don't have a cyber insurance company, that liability falls on you. Because a lot of times the cyber insurance companies will say, okay, this is who you need to notify, you know, and kind of handhold you in the process. IT.
The incident responders forensic review revealed the following information. Finance received an email purportedly from a trusted vendor asking for a review of an invoice. An employee clicked on the link, causing a malicious file to be downloaded to the organization's network. The file remained undetected and was used by hackers to conduct reconnaissance and password stealing for several days before the hackers became operational. Hackers used administrative privileges to execute their attack and gain access to the building automation system, phone system, and multiple computers on the network. What do you do with this information?
Nightmare.
Fire the employee who clicked on the link. That's what Tony said.
That's what I would.
I mean, I
mean,
guess now we know how they got access.
You are IT, right?
I'm IT.
I mean, you want to see what are the other devices that they were compromised. I mean, you want to get to the bottom of that, because it took probably several days to start getting the information. So you don't know, is that one computer? It was many, you had to start like analyzing them, the whole
hire
network.
people for security. It's taking 7 days to figure out.
So with the password stealing, does that mean they stole the password of the individual user? So that person's passwords to all the different systems.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it could have happened when they clicked the link. It brought them to a login page. So like if you all have a Mass Bay login page, they could have acted as an attacker in the middle and simulated that you were going to that page, but instead your data is being either brought through an intermediary website, or they pretended to be Mass Bay and redirected you to a site that looked like Mass Bay where you entered your data and maybe your MFA token as well. And what they can do with that, especially with Microsoft, is they can simulate that you are logging into your Microsoft portal, and then they steal your session token. And they're logging in simultaneously from overseas. So then what they do is they register one of their devices to create persistence, and then your session token could be good for up to 90 days, depending on the company's policy. So they could have up to 90 days of access inside of your, let's say, Office 365 at that point. And if it's federated, then they have access to a lot of things. So they could have stolen it that way. In this case, that's what happened. But in other ways, they could steal it with malware on your computer. That's a keylogger that's capturing your keystrokes as you type. There's other software that could go in and search for like files. Like I won't ask like who has an Excel spreadsheet of their passwords on their computer, but like I know someone who had a lot of those, and like
I need a list of people.
I had someone whose password was monkey1234#, and I was like, your password is a known password that like thousands of people use, you know, and it's like, what are you doing? But they were like, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it just there's a lot of different software that can do that too, and look for those passwords in a network, and then steal those, send them out to a command and control group, and they can look for that. There's also the data breaches, like they can pull off the dark web for pennies on the dollar passwords that have already been compromised. So is there a way to just pull up the web page? I could show you a web page.
Yeah.
But there's a web page that I always recommend to people called haveibeenpwned.com.
Have I been what? Sorry.
Have I been pwned? So it's instead of owned, like, you know, like we kicked their butt, like we owned them.
Yeah, right.
In a football game or something. The internet word is pwned.
Okay.
Like you pwn someone in a video game because you wipe them out, you know.
I'm surprised I didn't know
Yeah.
that with my 13
So
and 10
yeah,
year olds.
so have I been pwned? It's not Gen Alpha language. It's like a Gen Z language
Oh.
maybe or something. But
Maybe millennial.
yeah, it could be millennial. I think it's millennial
Oh.
language. I think Gen Alpha would be like,
It's like Sigma.
I was like
Riz.
Sigma, your Sigma or whatever, you know, like whatever they would say. So, yeah, I'll show you that website, but as I'm doing that, leader, last inject.
Okay, Alita asked our team to, okay. Alita asked the team to convene for a meeting to discuss several items. What is the business impact of these cybersecurity incidents? What are the best options, backup, fair ransom? Who do we notify when? What are the pro injection? What are the pro injections for service disruption?
All right, so there's some questions in there, right? There's
Yeah.
So why don't we go through the questions? We got a couple minutes of time.
Yeah, I'll read the questions. What is the business impact of the cybersecurity instance?
Seems significant. How do we measure that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so you might be able to, after the fact, look at the amount of loss. With data breaches, there are sometimes state rules about paying for credit monitoring. That could be, you know, I don't know if you can get a bulk rate for credit monitoring. If you have 100,000 customers, you know, you might be able to get that, but there's a financial cost there. What happened? What systems went down? You recall what systems went down? So like the phone system,
HVAC, financial.
HVAC, financial system went down. So if you are some type of business, like your business impact for your financial or business transactions could have gone down substantially. You could be out of business for a certain amount of days while you're waiting for systems to be restored. Any other thoughts on business impact?
Lost customers.
Yeah, lost customers is a huge one, especially if they're getting emailed by a ransomware group that they have your data and they want $5 million for it. So,
What are the best options, backup or pay ransom?
so backing up or paying the ransom.
No guarantee that they release your data.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the problem. Like, I think it was Black Hat that was taken down and they still had people's data even though people paid the ransom. So, yeah. Can't trust these people. So,
Who do we notify?
So all the data has now been touched by an outside party, so you have no idea that's the integrity of the data that they're actually releasing. So they could have gone in and changed, injected new information, and a whole bunch of other nonsense.
yep. Or they could have manipulated your data that's still in the network to change that to further disrupt business operations as well.
Planted seeds for future.
Right.
Who do we notify and when?
So who do you notify and when? What are some examples of who you might want to reach out to?
Mark, you should have the same. I'm calling Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends at what stage of the attack. And so once the threats and ransomware is probably want the legal team to advise you on what to submit to customers.
The state data breach notification. So if you notify the state.
Yeah, once you cross that threshold and you know that you lost data, those data breach notifications, yep.
But then customers too.
Customers is a big one. You get a now you've got a HR or not a HR but a PR problem
PR.
on your hands. So yeah, like how are you gonna save face or try to make things right with customers?
Insurance company, if you have one.
Yep, cyber insurance if you've got it. Liability insurance if you have it. Yep, those two aren't those could be separate entities.
Did the employees, did any of their information get hacked? I can't remember.
Possibly, probably, if the
No,
customer
they
data got
employees.
hacked, yep. Good point of having to communicate things internally as well.
Yeah,
Um,
HR data.
Yep, HR data. And then the other side of that is too, how do you communicate when you're in the middle of an attack? You know, the way we know the phone system's down. But you know, does Mass Bay, do you all have in your incident response plan, some kind of way of communicating out of band so that if you know the hackers like compromise your email system, can you try to go through IM or a phone tree or something?
Yeah, so every time, never let a disaster go to waste, right? So anytime another school has an event happen, we go and diagnose it. So the one we took was Bristol Community College had a ransomware attack, and they found, things that lessons learned were, something happens, we need to now we produce a physical, basically a physical directory that we drop off to people on a regular basis. We're actually due to do it again within the break because enough people come in and change the position. That way we can call people and say this happened, that happened. We also have Gmail. And part of what we're looking at is maybe actually pulling Gmail out of single sign-on. And the reason why is turn off the email functionality, but just in case we bring it back on. And that way it wouldn't be impacted by systems. Almost technically air gapped it by frequencies. That's a consideration.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So especially if you're in a business, having that, you know, taking consideration, like I'm sure you all do and you're doing is really important. All right, well that, is that all the questions?
There is one more. What are the projections for service disruptions?
Yeah, so projections for service disruption. So again, we know could be days, right? There's like days for the backups to be coming back up, and what do you do with that? Do you pay the overtime to the MSP to get you up in 5 days versus 15? You know,
Changing all passwords.
changing passwords? Yes. So.
Is this where we can fire people then?
Maybe bring in Tony,
Yeah.
the other HR director. So, yeah. All right, well, that was pretty much the end of the injects and the exercise. We're kind of doing the hot wash right now. What we try to do with the scenarios is create the hot wash environment for the leader so that like a facilitator doesn't have to do that. So that's what part of those questions are, is to just talk through the whole thing, what happened. But that does it as far as the actual scenario. We used to have a separate hot wash card, but we don't really need it now because we injected it into this scenario. But we're happy to give out some card decks. Mike, go ahead.
They're a new term for me. Hot wash.
Hot wash, sorry, that's a military thing. So after we would engage in some kind of operation, we would just call it hot wash, and that was like basically just to wash away the ugliness of an exercise, especially if it was terrible, you know, like.
That's a better one than use the people sitting close to boredom.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody died.
So, it's like, you know, the hot wash, you want to sanitize everything
Yeah,
because
no,
it was
that's a good
nasty,
one.
right? Like,
Okay.
so it's just the hot wash, like, just get, if it was terrible, get it out of your head, take the lessons learned from it and be done with it, and never talk about it ever again. But pull the lessons learned from it. So yeah, it's like a hot wash. So.
Not that one's much
Yeah.
better than mine.
Yeah. All right, and then last thing I'll show you is the backups to the internet page. So for those who haven't seen it before, have I been pwned? Oh, okay, thanks. So this is an AOL address that I had from the 90s, like literally my UMass Lowell ID, Petruzelli Edge. And I switched it over to AOL, which was the up and coming, you know, provider at that point. But I use it because it's good for illustrative purposes. And you can see over 30 years, I've been involved in multiple breaches, some stuff completely, I mean, all of it's out of my control. But like, you know, big names.
Yeah.
I mean, verification IO, that's like everything I've got is compromised, you know, so simple places like Evite, but like Park Mobile, again, big deal, right? So Twitter, so like a lot of different things. So kind of a big deal, but it's good. It's a good website. Some people ask, like, is it safe for me to put my data in there? Yeah, because it's basically just a mirror of the data that's on the dark web. So you're not compromising anything further by putting your stuff in there. You can also put your phone number in there.
So what do you recommend if you find that this has happened to you?
So my old phone number was fine. That's what a good news looks like, and you saw the bad news already. So it depends. I mean, you could freeze your credit, like you could do that on your own. I use a paid service for to monitor my own credit, and I just, it's worth it. I put my parents on there too, so because their stuff's all over the dark web, I'm sure too. So I use a paid service that monitors me whenever someone opens credit under my name. It's always been me that's done it, but I get the notifications right away. And in some cases, like, they can't run the checks because I've frozen my credit, so I have to go and freeze my credit before like getting a check. But some of that, a lot of the stuff that those like third parties do, you could do with your own time, but it's like time is money, right? It's like $100 to $200 a year for some of those third parties to do it, doesn't really, you could spend 4 or 5 hours doing that. So I'm not advocating for any specific group, but I decided it's peace of mind for me to just pay that and do that, so. All right, well, thank you all for participating. You're welcome to grab a deck. We have 2 other scenarios in there. So what's in the card deck, the rest of it is we have some other scenarios that could be done with like an executive management team. So we have social engineering, malware, unauthorized downloads, business continuity, which we actually have scenarios for now. So there's injects for a business continuity scenario where we could run that as a group. And then lastly is insider threat. And the insider threat one we produced based on a kind of real world scenario where basically someone said they're working in a manufacturing kind of environment in a biological space and said, I would never let this poison touch the private sector if it was up to me. So like, okay, what do you do with someone who's got knowledge of your systems and basically said the product is poison, you know? So so kind of interesting stuff. We basically create a lot of gray areas for people to have good discussions around. So so you're welcome to take the card deck with you. And I mean, granted, you're all from the same organization, but you could always take it and pass it on to whoever you wanted. So, but thank you all very much for playing 157. So you get 3 minutes back of your day. Those of you whose days were hijacked, you get